So, my name's Jen Tabor. I started a company called Souldier. Our main product is guitar straps. We started off in 2005, which is 18 years ago now, making guitar straps for the guys in my band. Before this, I was an orchestra director, so I started off as a music teacher in public schools. I taught all the strings, violin, viola, cello, bass. I had, the school had 450 kids, and I was their music teacher, kindergarten through 8th grade. And then I taught them, half of the day I taught them general music, the other half of the day I taught them orchestra. So for my own self, because I still played, I would play in a rock and roll band at night with some of my friends from college. And we would get together on Thursdays, and then we'd have started playing at the, at some venues in Chicago. And then one year, the guys in my band, there are two guitarists, their birthdays were 3 days apart. So I figured I had to get them similar presents, but one for this personality and one for this personality. And then I turned that into, I made a guitar strap. It my roots are in the area because I did go to Penn, and the guitar strap idea actually came from my dad who worked at Gurley Lee. So he was an auto mechanic at Gurley Lee, and he would just give me boxes of his recycled seat belts that he pulled out of messed up cars. And that's where the seat belts came in. When we went to make the guitar straps, I said, well, what are we going to put these on? Oh, your dad gave you that box of seat belts sitting in the closet, and we just took that seat belt out, sewed some fabrics. We matched up the fabric with the personality or their kind of style, the clothing they wore. Put that on recycled seat belts on the inside.
Oh, funny.
Hand cut out leather ends, and then we started making guitar straps. The first year we were in business, I was also teaching. I taught for actually the first 4 years that we had this business. It was just like a little side project. But while I was teaching, I would take every 3-day weekend we had, every time we had a Monday off or a Friday off, and I would drive to the nearest closest city. I would visit all their guitar stores and say, hey, would you be interested in buying these little, side cash? And people started saying yes, so we showed up to a trade show. The trade shows, the first year that we were in business, I walked into 250 stores. It was an obsession. Every time somebody said yes, I would just go, oh, Milwaukee next weekend. Oh, St. Louis next weekend. Detroit, Ann Arbor. I would just drive, we're in Chicago, so a 3-hour drive for me was a sales call, and that's what I would do. When we showed up at our first trade show 2 years later in 2007, we probably picked up, 30 dealers across the country. And that year we also had a Japanese distributor, somebody who sells our product in Japan, came over. He was very interested, and he gave us an order that was my teaching salary. That year I took a year leave of absence, and that's kind of when I started forming this as an actual business. Somebody had to sew while I was teaching at school, so we hired our first employee, and that was in our apartment. They would sew while I was teaching, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. Every 2 years we've grown out of our space, needed a bigger space. 2 years would go by, we'd signed 3-year leases, and we'd only be there for 2, so it grew really fast. I think it's the handmade in the U.S., the recycled and green product, and then a lot of the stuff ended up being original vintage fabric from the 60s and 70s. So Jimi Hendrix played at Woodstock, Muddy Waters, Duane Allman, Bob Dylan, and I found, in the pursuit of looking for personalities, I found the original dead stock fabric from the manufacturer from the 60s and 70s in warehouses in Chicago. And I found from a website in Belgium a tag that said made in Chicago. So I was like, this is the warehouse that has all these leftover fabrics. So every time we made money, I just went and collected fabrics. And then people would say, how do you have the Jimi Hendrix straps? And, and that's kind of another way that our brand became popular pretty quickly in the world of musicians. So once we started once we started making straps, you can't just make guitar straps. So we started making bags, headbands, belts, purses, cuffs, wrist cuffs, and we still continue to expand our product line now. We make leather journal covers, We've recently gotten Notre Dame licensing, so a lot of the product that we're making right now will be Notre Dame branded, and we'll make it for them, and it'll be sold in their bookstore and online and stuff like that. So we can have just honed our skills over the years and continue to look for new ways to branch out, expand the business, grow it, make sure that we're not just in this pool, but we're in this pool. And 18 years later, we're here. Wow. So 5 years ago, in our, as I said earlier, every 2 years we were in the position to move. We'd grow, they'd sell our building, the area that we were in would gentrify, and they'd say your rent's going up this much, and I said we have to find a forever home. We can't keep moving around the city every 2 years, and my mom lives in town, and so my rule was I had to be 2 hours away from my mom because that's a drive, at least. So we ended up 20 minutes away from her, and that's how we ended up in Buchanan. It was just looking for a small area where we can keep our life kind of tight, kids, work, school, home, all of that stuff. And we relocated everything in 2015, 2016 to Buchanan, which is where we now are. We are manufacturing all of our stuff behind the Rite Aid building in the old washroom. It's the bottom of the hill. We have 8,000 square feet down there for our storage, for all our manufacturing, all our machines. And then, I guess 2 years ago, I started going, I can't work, I can't do business work with all this stuff going on. I'll sit down at a machine, I start wandering around, the day's gone, I didn't answer any emails. I'm not moving us forward. So I really need an office. And in the pursuit of an office, somebody said to me, why don't you start Old Town School of Folk Music? Which, having been my music teacher background, when I was running around in college trying to pick up any music teacher job so that they would give me a real job when the time came because I would have experience, I used to teach at this place called Old Town School of Folk Music. I taught kids piano there, I taught violin there, and basically it is a music school and dance school and art school. You can go there, you can take Brazilian dance, you can take anything that you can think of. They have a specialty instructor at this place that will teach this lesson. And then on the weekends, if the Brazilian dancers are in, they might have a performance of Brazilian dance, and you can buy tickets and go see the performance. So while those people are there, you just keep them active and then kind of help them enrich your own community. So somebody said, why don't you start Old Town School of Folk Music here? And I know exactly how that works. And I started thinking of, well, there's this school down the street that nobody's doing anything with. It's just been sitting there. In the first 20 minutes, I called our superintendent. I said, can I go inside and see the school? She said, yes. As soon as I walked out, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is my place. How do I get this? What do I do with this? Because I think one of my problems is I also am a visionary, so I don't see any of the dust. I don't see any of the dirt. I only see the future, which, and then every day is getting to the future. I really love the work that I do. It's fulfilling. It helps out other people. So it is just, I am just running towards it. It took me about 6 months to figure out that this was is this a good idea or is this a terrible idea? I did that for 6 months. And then we bought Stark, and then we started cleaning and working on Stark. And the whole plan of that is to be basically a community center where people can come in and bring their artistic abilities and share them with the community. We're going to rent out space and let people teach the classes that they're good at. I don't plan on teaching all the classes. I just plan on helping orchestrate the whole thing and make sure that this opportunity is possible. When we also moved here, we relied a lot on our park district. I said, where's the park district in Buchanan? Where do the kids go to camp? Where do they do this? Where's the art class? Where's the dance class? Where's the ballet class? And there weren't those things in our community, So by helping my own kids, I'm also helping the other kids. And I kept thinking, if I have 2 daughters, if each of them takes a guitar lesson, if I get 2 more kids, sure, I can find 2 more. That's a teacher in Buchanan one day. If I can do that on piano and guitar and whatever, and I could multiply that out, then we could probably have a staffed event center, every day of the week. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the things that I'm doing. I can take the things that we're doing at Souldier and kind of help use it to push it along. We're going to have a little retail store in there with anything that's handmade in Buchanan. You'll be able to go over there and shop the retail store. But the main focus is on classes, events, activities, and also, gives us a place in the winter when kids can't play outside, that we may be able to rent the gym out like they do Sky Zone, and the kids can come in for 2 hours with their friends and just play dodgeball or roller skate or whatever it is. So that's kind of how the whole Stark building came into our fold. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. So you'll see my nice work shoes. These are not the good ones, because today we have a dumpster coming. So I hope to have Stark active by November 1st. A lot of what we're doing has been waiting on mechanicals, so it is not my timeline. It's the plumber, the roofer, the electrician, the carpeting. We just got carpeting in the 2 worst rooms last week. We waited probably 4 months for the carpeting to show up. So just because of the time strain constraints, and there's a lot of people are shorthanded right now. So that's kind of determining the opening of Stark. But we're making a lot of progress every day. Yeah. Like I said, today the dumpster shows up for all the metal trash, so it's very exciting. In there we were left with, as you know, most people have heard that there was the storage for all the other schools. So so far we've moved through 250 desks, and we probably have another 150 desks left. We've got 2 rooms that are chair rooms that are just chairs. Half of the room is just chairs stacked up, old tables, and then doors and things like that from the school. You can see when compliance issues came into the school, because the metal chairs that people probably sat on when it opened in 1958, they might not be regulation. There are a lot of cafeteria tables in there, and I know they've moved forward because those are finger pinchers. And so things like that, things that probably they found out, hey, this isn't the best thing to have around kids, those are the things that ended up in Stark. Most of the furniture that we're using to redecorate the rooms is the original furniture, though. We're putting all the clocks back on the wall, all the speakers back, eventually the intercom system will work again. So the only thing that cosmetically has been done is, like I said, we carpeted a couple rooms, which was badly needed. And then there's a decent amount of paint, steaming walls. The original grass cloth wallpaper is being left on. So all the radiators are getting painted back to the original color they were when the manufacturer installed them, because you take the inside out and you can see what color they were, all this like pumpkin orange. Oh, they're all going back to pumpkin orange. So we're doing a good amount of stuff there on the metal trash cans. Every room will have its own green metal trash can that so I think it's just going to be a fun space, because we get to leave it as it is. We get to repurpose the furniture. It doesn't have to be compliant the way it was for schools, and none of this stuff is really, that much of a problem. And then we get to activate the community by bringing in artists, teachers, having people take classes and learn, things other than, we're a very big sports town, but if you're not good at sports, there's really nowhere else for you to go. And I want to solve that problem for the kids in the community. I will say that there's one other component to my story that makes Stark make sense for me, which is that in college when I was running around trying to work at every music school in the city so that I could get a job one day, so that I had credentials before I got to the point of having a job, because being a new teacher is hard. So for a music teacher, every place, for me as a music teacher, every place that would let me teach kids music, I was on it. I was on all the camps. I taught it, like I said, Old Town School of Folk Music. I also worked at a music school called the Lathrop Community Homes, a Lathrop Community Music Center, which is across from the Lathrop Homes. Lathrop Homes was one of the first low-rise housing developments in Chicago, right along the Chicago River. It was when they took people from living in high-rises to having two-story houses, a whole community. So that was easier to patrol, police, maintain, all that kind of stuff. So I taught at a music school. Music director, the executive director, had a death in the family when I was about 22. And they said, we have no one to run this music school. A non-for-profit music school with 150 kids and 40 teachers in 3 locations around the city. Who wants to be the director of this music school? I'll give it a shot. I got nothing to lose. I'm like, maybe I'll learn something. Maybe I'll go to it. There's, our board of directors had one of the marketing people at Walgreens, and so we had some pretty large people on the board. And the music school was on its way out because of 2008 and the recession and all that. So that was already in the works, and it was so I helped close out the music school over that year. But I also got the opportunity to understand how a non-for-profit music school runs. And the way we did it there is we had an annual budget of $250,000 that we would fundraise from granting organizations. And we would use that $250,000 to buy instruments and to pay teachers. We would buy instruments for kids. Somebody would say, I want to play guitar, but I don't have any money and I don't have a guitar. Oh, here's a guitar and your lesson's covered. All you have to do is show up every Tuesday, because we got grants. I want to play piano, and great, here's your keyboard. You take your keyboard, you sign this contract. This is Sue, she's your teacher. Your lesson's on 10 o'clock on Sundays. So we had 150 kids who couldn't afford lessons around the city, that we were providing them the instrument, and we were providing them covering their lesson through the grants that we fundraised for. That is another thing that I think that we can do here. Exact same thing. We can use our local Southwest Michigan, we can use the state of Michigan, we can use granting organizations, we can get the funds to start coming in. And then it doesn't have to be exclusive to the people who have money, which has always been a mission of mine in music education. I don't want, for me, now I'm getting into mission stuff, but for me, music as an education shouldn't be about the kids that can afford it. And sometimes the kid who can't afford to be in softball or soccer or whatever because they don't have the money for that equipment, you can give them one instrument and that is their thing. And if you can cover that teacher for them and the family, you've just changed a kid's life. And so I think that that's the other part of the START thing is as we get into it, we'll be able to start working on doing some of that grant writing and exactly what we did. And our connection with the guitar strap market means that I can call Fender and say, Fender Guitars, can you make a donation of 5 guitars to our music school? Give me all the ones that were returned, that were scratched and dent, that somebody who paid a lot of money for it didn't want. And then you can have a tax write-off. And then they give me the guitars. Then I say, I've got 5 guitars. Who wants a lesson? Who wants to play guitar? And then we just get those into the kids' hands who can actually, who are looking for something. And then we bring them back into the school, we put them on a stage, and they're playing in a band. Now we've got community, we've got kids with free instruments, we've got parents who don't have to worry about the financial burden of making that happen, and we're doing that all right in this little school. So that's the mission of START.
Yay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's how it ties back to my business. In the meantime, we also did start a non-for-profit this year for that express purpose to start bringing in, to be able to start fundraising for this stuff. Any thoughts, any comments, questions, ideas?
You're quite a dynamo, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, every day I get 25% done of what I wanna get done, and then I have to wake up the next day and just hammer at it again.
Energy. Impressive.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say that I've done all the renovations myself over in that building.
Stop it. Go, girl.
When people don't show up, when somebody tells me it takes 2 weeks to skim coat my wall, I'm like, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I just skim coat this thing myself and I'll be done in 2 days. So, yeah, my entire January, February was, nobody wants to hear about this, but the halfway up the wall in Stark was black mold in the gym. It had been closed for so long, it just been damp, the water leaking, blah, blah, humidity, 10 years, 11 years, it was shut. I think that was the thing that was making everybody so scared. I mean, you would walk in there and you could just smell it. It was heavy and it was dirty. It was very dirty. So January and February of last year, basically every day at night, I go home, make the kids dinner, put them in bed. My husband sits home and does his research, whatever he calls it, on the computer. And 8 to midnight, I'd be back over at Stark, scrubbing walls. Had, 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts, face mask, hat gloves. I would just get in there and clean. But you can do anything if you can put on good music. You just put the radio on and it, I'm like, it's cleaning. It's just cleaning.
So do you have staff lined up over there?
No. We have no budget.
Mm-hmm.
It is, right now, and no one can be in there because we don't necessarily we didn't have plumbing. We had a leaking roof. We didn't have heat. So all this stuff had to be done. And now I have 2 businesses. I have my manufacturing business and I have a school. The school has no income.
Mm-hmm.
So the school is on the broke schedule until it's ready to go. And like I said, we're about a month ready to go. So as soon as we can get a couple tenants in there, we have some people who want to rent rooms already, and we can start generating that buzz. But really, it's about all the mechanicals need to be fixed before we can have that conversation. We have to get the building inspector over there. He has to say that people can be in here. As soon as he says it's suitable for people, then we will be moving, and then we'll get staff. Mm-hmm. So I know I've had some people calling me about, like, what jobs do you have? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the mold removal, carpet repair,
I do it.
window cleaning. Do you want any of that stuff? No. I'm like, we'll call you. I'll let you know when we open. But we probably won't hire anybody until we open. Mm-hmm. And I always think that the first 3 months is my own, hard work. You have to show everybody what it's going to be. Everything I've done, it usually is, if I can put in the hard work, it'll come back to me. But it's usually me that has to, get the ball rolling. We're finally brought people, and I think our police chief came over and the city manager over there yesterday, and I think they could tell how much work has been done on the building so far of just getting it ready for people to be in there, Yes. So no employees yet. But I do take my current employees on field trips.
She's getting the enthusiasm going.
Yeah. No, I told them today the dumpster's coming. I told them today the dumpster's coming. Don't wear anything fancy. We're all going over there. They think it's the best thing. Oh. They get out of regular work and they just get to haul around furniture for the day. I feel the same way.
I think it's exciting. I think you're really brave to take on something like that.
Thank you.
And I live in the neighborhood, so I really am. And my children went to that school.
Yes.
So I'm excited something's happening there.
Yeah, well, it won't be a blight on the community anymore. And all the other good things that will happen around there, you know, I've really been pushing the city now. If we get a daycare in here where the kid's gonna play, the park was ripped out. We need a park here. And then not only that, but that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday. When softball season comes, I have a parking lot,
Yep,
which
they take over.
I need to also, what if the school's 100% active? There's no room for these people anymore, and then it's gonna become a war. So let's solve this war ahead of time. So now they're looking at where they're gonna put additional parking. And I said, our pavement's breaking up, which is why I don't want anybody driving on it. And then the kids walk over and they pick up the rocks and they throw it at the school, which is what they've been doing for 10 years while there's no one there. So I need the kids to have an activity. So maybe we need to now put back in a parking lot in a park over there. So, it's not just us doing something over there will, make the next thing happen and the next thing happen. And yeah, it's gonna be one of the best parts of Buchanan, I think. Yeah. Property value is so cool.
But I think it's something to do with that electric voice property.
Yeah, well, there's people driving around there every once in a while I see. So they might.
Well, for the parking,
Yeah, it's big enough, it's close enough for the parking for the
Oh, yeah,
small people.
yeah. They still said that that's private property.
sure, everything is until someone
Everything
buys
is
it.
private property. I think they're working on it.
What well-known people have bought your guitar straps?
Everyone. Taylor Swift has our guitar straps. She wore them on was it Grammys last year? Jorma Kanukin from America has one of our stuff. He runs a music camp in Ohio, the Fur Peace Ranch, and so not only does he use our product, but he also carries it and sells it in his store at the Fur Peace Ranch. Tom Petty has our straps. Our strap is actually on Tom Petty's guitar in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't know that until last year when I went there. Of course, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's how did this happen? We make them and sell them, and I have no idea where they go until we see them on a stage or until we see Aerosmith. We've worked with them a number of times, and then I'm wondering, I've got young bands, it just depends on, I've got bands from every decade, it just depends on where. I've been the guest of, I've been Led Zeppelin's guest before, because they use our stuff. They've went to, actually, my brother was telling me, he was at a show, like a music festival, where we had a booth. He set up a booth at a music festival up by Woodstock, New York. There's a yearly festival that happens there, not Woodstock, a different one. And Robert Plant came by and was telling my brother, oh, is this the girl that does X, Y, and Z? I have one of this. This is, tell her Robert said hi. He told me that like a month ago. He said, oh, I told you. No, you didn't. So you didn't tell. That was like 8 years ago. You didn't tell me that happened. I would have remembered. So the great thing about our product is that the artists love it. I don't know. And so they pass it around to themselves. So one of the things I've always done is artists and famous people are given a lot of free stuff. I will give them free stuff every once in a while, but I make them trade me. So if I give you a guitar strap, you give me tickets to your show. Why? Because I deserve the respect. Because I'm an artist, like you're an artist, and we're the same. We are both people. I do not, I'm respectful, but I'm not a fan. I am doing this because I love it. They're doing their thing because we love it, and we can trade. but I want to be on the same page as them, and that's how you build a relationship. If somebody walks up to you and is like, "You're the best, you're amazing," it kind of puts distance between you. If you say, "Oh, I love what you do, I'm so happy you wear our guitar straps, it means so much," I tell them all the time. If I know something's going to Taylor Swift, I give this piece to Melissa. I say, "Melissa, you do this." I give this piece to Sam. "Sam, you do this." Everybody in the shop touches it, and I say, "This one's going to Taylor Swift." When she is on stage, they're happy, because it's not about me and my satisfaction. It's about everybody that works in the shop feeling like they did something. Yes, we're making guitar sets. Half of the day we're just sitting in there sewing, and it's very boring, and the music gets old. You know what I mean? But then you see your stuff out in the world, and you made a difference to somebody else's life, and that comes across like that. And so I think that's where the product becomes meaningful, at least to people here. And the fact that we can have taken this and can turn it into what is potentially happening at Stark School, that's stupid little guitar straps. And, and that is now my mission back to the artists. Why should you wear my stuff? Because we're supporting a music school in Southwest Michigan and giving free lessons to kids and blah, blah, blah. You want to come by and play at my place? Do a benefit concert for me, and then let me keep all the funds. You don't care, you make enough money. And then I'm gonna pay for 50 kids to take lessons because of your benefit concert. And everyone I've talked to has said yes. They're all excited about it. They think it's great. So one of the rooms in Stark, we put specifically, I got Stark rezoned. We got Stark rezoned for multi-purpose use, because we might have some kid things there, we might have some classrooms, we might have some music happening. One of them I specifically did was I asked that one room in the future may be an Airbnb. And that would be exactly for this purpose, is if we have a band going from Chicago to Detroit, "Hey, come stay at our school for 2 days. While you're here, can you give these kids lessons? Can you do a video with us? Can you do a concert for the place? And you can stay in the school. We have this cool little room where you can sleep in an elementary school overnight." And then they'll come in and we can house them, and then we can turn them back into playing concert, making some money for the center, getting kids lessons, inspiring them to do the next thing. Maybe they can record there and they can say, "Oh, they recorded at Stark School." There's lots of possibilities to, once it's just the ecosystem is basically what it is. Product, kids, music, and all the way back through, and it just circles. And any way those things can tie themselves to each other, it's all the same story in my mind. They all feed each other. Because I don't want to just be a product company. I don't want to just make product. It's always been about making meaningful product. And, a lot of the time it was about the people you can hire and showing the person that has, I've had people say, "This is the nicest job I've ever had. No one's throwing onions at my head." And I'm like, because I worked in a restaurant before. When the boss got mad at me, he'd whip an onion at me. I will never throw onions at you. So, and I didn't know I had this skill. And we're teaching people that, in our shop, nobody has walked in with sewing experience. Every single person who I've ever employed has showed up with zero. And I just tell them, if I can do it, you can do it. I've never taken a sewing class in my life. I just figured it out. And then they do. They do. And then that is all intrinsic reward too, because if you make something that looks great, or you learn the next thing, you're proud of yourself, and that's not something that I own. That's something that they own. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, thank you, Jen.
Thank you.